Alrighty, guys, here we are with Mr. Kevin Lanning. Pretty interesting how this all came about. Just life has been interesting lately. It's been pretty cool. Met him through Ian Bick. Shout out to Ian. He'll be here in a couple hours.
I've been out here hustling all my life. Every day we get into it. Really out here in these streets. That's day and night. Like there's nothing to it. When I was going through it, dog, I never got your call. I never asked for nothing, no. But now I want it all. Promise I'ma do it. Came from rags to riches. Rags to riches. Came from rags to riches. Rags to riches. Came from rags.
Kevin, how are you, bro?
What's going on, man? I'm good. My chair is so high. I gotta come down a little bit. I'm not that much bigger than you.
Yeah. So talk to me, man. How's life? What brings you to Miami?
It's wow.
A lot of things.
Other than the women, am I good this far away?
You're good, yeah. You should be.
So I got in last night. I'm from Jupiter. Well,
Okay.
I live in Jupiter now. I'm originally from New York. Moved down during COVID. I was one of those. One of the many New Yorkers who flocked down.
One of the transplants? No.
Yeah, and hiked prices through the roof. Sorry about that.
You're good. You're good.
All you native Miami and Floridians.
Yeah, that are abandoning the city at this point because it's pretty crazy.
Yeah. So, as I was saying, I'm from New York. Grew up in Long Island. Lived there until college. Went away to school up in Albany, New York.
Okay.
Was there for 4 years. I was a student athlete. I played football there.
Dope.
And
what sport?
Football.
Football, okay.
Yep. American football, not soccer.
You strike me as a quarterback.
A quarter. Well, I'm handsome like a quarterback, but I was not a quarterback.
All like handsome, tall white dudes qualify, you know? Tom
With
Brady.
hair, with good hair.
With good, exactly. Hairstyle.
No, I was a corner. I was a D-back.
Okay.
Yeah, I was fast.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, so I played in high school.
Were you like the one white dude amongst like all the black dudes that were way faster than you?
Yep, that's exactly how it went. Yeah, they were faster
Cornerbacks
than I was.
those guys are fast, man. You gotta run.
Quick feet. You have to mirror a wide receiver.
Good reflexes. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so okay. You play cornerback. What else?
Played corner. I was also not at Albany, but I was a lacrosse player as well. Me and my brothers, we all played sports.
Dope.
So all boys. I had two older brothers. I was the youngest of three boys.
Sports or martial arts, typically when you're young, is a good like foundation.
Mm-hmm.
You know, gives you discipline, kind of teaches you all the principles that you need in life. You know, work as a team, be a leader. You know, work well with others. You know, discipline, consistency, hard work, all that stuff. So
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
Structure.
yeah,
Helps you add structure to your life. I have a 5-year-old daughter. She does judo. And since she has been going, she's very disciplined, structured. She listens. I could threaten her with her sensei, you know. I'm going to call so-and-so. She's like,
no, don't.
yeah,
That's cool.
it's funny how that works. But so no, I went to Albany, tore my rotator cuff playing football. And I mean, to backtrack before surgery, though, for me, I was a very anxious, fearful child.
Okay.
Fear of not making it. Now, what making it actually meant,
It's relative, right?
who the fuck knows? But just making it, being successful in life, whether it's in sports, whether it's in the business world. But I was a very anxious child who focused down the road, focused on anything else but the present moment and what was going on in the present moment.
Right.
And then I went to college and I showed up at training camp freshman year. These dudes were double my size, much faster than I was. And for me, it was like, if I am not going to be the best at it, I didn't want to do it. That's how fearful I was. Hard work, putting in that work,
Right.
time, year, 2, 3 years on a workout program.
Second place as a first loser, that kind of stuff.
Exactly. And there was so much fear right off the bat when I showed up on campus. So I get hurt, tear my rotator cuff. Now, realistically, I could have rehabilitated and got back on the field. And for me, that was my first opportunity to escape sports. And I played sports. I did like sports.
Right.
In high school, I did pretty well with football, with lacrosse. and the accolades were pretty good and the recognition. Sorry, but
no, you're good.
But I didn't love it.
Right.
I didn't love it. And I think a lot of that was, you know, my parents at a young age were like, okay, you're going to play football this year. We signed you up for lacrosse. Like, we're going to take you. And I don't blame my parents. I blame myself for not speaking up and saying, I don't love this. And I don't want to do this. And I continue to do it. So when I got hurt, this was my first escape. I started sports at like 6, 7 years old. So this was my first escape.
Your whole life, yeah.
Pretty much my whole life. And I was put on painkillers. I had the surgery, I get out, and they put me on Percocet. I will never forget that first Percocet I took when I got home that night.
It's crazy.
And
life is different overnight, you know?
Life is different overnight. In a second. The anxiety, the fears, I'm not going to be, you know, successful. I'm not good enough. Just all of the fears and anxiety around me just went away. I can run for president. I can do anything right now. I can talk to any girl. I could, and I'm saying this not to sound like an asshole, but I was always a good-looking guy, but I was the most insecure guy.
It's like that with women too. I've noticed. Like, the hotter they are, the more insecure they are, which is strange. You would think it'd be the opposite. They're like super confident and all that, you know. With guys, I've noticed it's similar. Like, the more bravado they have, the more, you know, kind of stuff they're dealing with internally.
Oh, 100%.
Strange.
I just always was extremely insecure. And like, I couldn't even walk in a lunchroom past 300 people because I'm so driven with fear that people are looking at me and judging me, and my self-worth was just, you know, I validated myself through sports for so long, and then I stopped playing sports. I have this break, but then I'm not validating myself. So at that point, when I got hurt and I was introduced to painkillers, my identity was completely screwed up. I had no idea who I was. I'd lost myself. So it's about 2-3 months after surgery, the doctor cuts me off. You're healed, son.
Right.
You don't need to be taking painkillers anymore. You're not in pain anymore.
For sure.
So the doctor takes the painkillers away from me. That is what's filling the void for me. That is my mask. That is what makes me feel normal. And it's been completely wiped away from me.
Bro, it's nuts, man. I remember I hurt my back, like, I don't know how long ago that was. That must have been like maybe 6-7 years ago. Bro, I remember my friend, he's like, dude, here, take it. It's a Oxycontin. Here, take one of these. Bro, I took it, and it took like 45 minutes for it to kick in. I'm like, man, this thing is, and like that warmth came over my body. I said, that felt great, but then when it was gone the next day, I said, yeah, I'm never doing that ever again. It was dangerously seductive. Like, it made me feel so good. And I said, yeah, man, I can't. If I ever try that again, I don't know what'll happen. You know? So,
it was the warm blanket. It was that warm blanket that came over me, and it felt so good. And in my head, the endorphins that were just being released in my head. And, you know, it just believing to myself that I can do anything. I could write a book. I could be the next biggest actor. I could do this. I could do that.
Dude, it's crazy how what we're not supposed to do in life gives us all this false sense of security. You know, and then it feels so real, right? Until you have like a catastrophic moment where you're like, wait, what the fuck am I doing?
Yeah.
You know, I've been there, man. It's pretty wild, to say the least.
It's crazy because I'm a firm believer that, you know, I should be a little closer here. It sounds so much better, actually. When you are not an addict and you can walk away from that, like yourself, that's a non-addict. Me, I'm through and through an addict and an alcoholic. I truly believe addiction is a disease. hereditary, whether it's something you activate within yourself,
right,
born with. But when I go back to when I was, from when I can remember, 5, 6, 7 years old, the common denominator was always these different symptoms to fill the void, whether it was through sports, whether it was through comic books as a kid, trading baseball cards, candy, and then eventually I found opiates, which was the most powerful thing for me. So the doctor ends up cutting me off, and I have to come up with all different ways to find opiates, because opiates made me just feel normal. It brought me to homeostasis in a way, mentally.
right,
Made me secure, etc. So now I am talking to other people on the football team who's hurt, who's got prescriptions, and now I'm also on the streets too, a little bit.
That's when it gets
drug dealers, talking to all these different people. And a lot of people don't know this, but in Albany, downtown Albany is the hood.
Really?
It is. There are a few blocks that the cops don't go on because,
Really?
riddled with gangs, and
Wow.
it's brutal.
You would never think that about upstate New York.
Yeah. A lot of people think, oh no, it's farmland.
It's like
up
the
in
Hamptons.
Nah, yeah, right.
You know?
Yeah, exactly. It's like the Hamptons. Country club.
Right.
So now I have to come, it's an expensive habit. I mean, I'm at this point now doing Oxycontin, and Oxys are extremely expensive. So I have to come up with different ways. I have to come up with different ways to make money to fund this. I'm out one night, I'm at a bar, and I meet this guy. He's the manager of my school bookstore. He is telling me, he manages the school bookstore, blah, blah, blah. And I'm immediately complaining to him about the prices of books, how expensive they are, the margins, ripping off students.
Right.
So he was telling me that they don't track their inventory, books going in and out, and they keep all of the school books at an offsite location away from the university in a warehouse. And then he had a key to this warehouse.
Right.
So now the wheels are turning, and I'm like,
well,
what are the odds if I go there on this day at this time that warehouse will be unlocked?
Right.
And he's like, all right, I pick up what you're putting down. I mean, I'm drunk at this point, so I'm just saying whatever to this dude. And he was like, okay. He's like, let's talk. Here's my number. Let's chat.
Ladies and gentlemen, the familiar voice of your host, Nelson Rodriguez Jr., taking a quick detour to talk to you about the best jewelry shop on the internet, Gus Villa Jewelry. Let's be honest here, guys. Jewelers in Miami are super shady sometimes. I've even been ripped off once or twice by one of these self-proclaimed alchemists that ended up being these weirdos who sell you a bunch of stuff that make your neck and your fingers turn black. Let me tell you, after I met my boy, Gus Villa, he elevated my bling game. The Gus Villa team, these guys are more than just jewelers. These guys are magicians turning metal and stone into your next head turner. Trust me, these pieces shine so much you can see them from outer space. Head over to GusVillaJewelry.com, and because you're a Monty, that's right, part of the Montana Method crew, you can use the promo code Montana to snatch 5% off your order. You don't just get hooked up with some shine, you get to have some dough in your pocket. Double whammy. So guys, what are you waiting for? Elevate your jewelry game. Show the world what you got. You got some style, you got some bling, you're all blinged up. Come on back after you do that. We've got more Montana Method Madness waiting for you. Now back to the podcast.
Cool.
That's wild.
So now I want to prove right what he said about the inventory, because you can return the books at the end of the semester and get some money back, and they'll take the used book.
Right.
And I want to make sure that he was right. And, if I do a ton of books, it's right to start off, and then 100 people come back to me and point me, then I'm fucking arrested. I'm done. So I took a small honor. I knew some people who played sports because I was a student athlete on other teams. We knew each other from the gym and whatnot.
Right.
So I did textbooks only, cash, half off. So if it was a $200 textbook, give me $100, hit me off, I'll get you the book.
Right.
So I think it was about 10 books we did the first time. Economics, statistics, textbooks. I go there, coordinate with the dude, pick them up, sell them to the people, 10 books. Semester closes, they return the books, no issues. He was right. They don't track the inventory.
Wow.
Good to go.
That's a great racket, man.
So say if it was $100 a textbook,
Right,
it was, call it $1,000. Him and I split 50-50.
Right.
So then the next semester, we're like, all right, let's do 100 books, right? 10 grand, 5,000, 5,000.
Right.
Books come back clean again. All good. I'm like, this is fucking amazing. Next year, we're like, okay, now we're going to do quarter classes because now they split the semesters in half and they call them quarter classes. We did quarter classes, fall semester, winter classes, spring quarter class, spring semester, and then summer school.
Right.
I would stay there. I wouldn't even go back to Long Island just to do that run for like an extra week or two and then, go home. We built this up to a $200,000 operation.
No way, dude.
And that was
sick.
before we split the money. But we built it up to $200,000 the second year.
Selling books. Oh, that's crazy.
Books. And I'm getting greedy. I hit him off with $80,000 and I keep $120,000. Now this is cash and I'm in college.
To a college student, $120,000 might as well be $10 million. Yeah.
I'm probably like 20 years old at the time.
Yeah.
So but the crazy thing is $120,000 cash for a college kid is a shit ton of money.
Yeah. Might as well be,
I had nothing to show for it. I was using drugs. I was going out with my friends. I was partying. And I didn't make the jump to heroin because I could afford Oxycontin.
That's crazy.
Because a lot of people make that jump because they can't afford Oxys anymore.
That's insane, man.
So that's year 2. Year 3 comes around and we're doing the same thing. The quarter, whatever. I go to the warehouse. I grab I have an order, grab the first 10 books, put them in my car, go back for the second 10 books, and I turn around and there is a lady standing there with 2 police officers. Dude, my heart fucking dropped. Bro. Yeah. It was
I know exactly how you felt, man. The day I got arrested, I was like, fuck, no. This is really happening,
It's surreal.
Yeah, I hate it.
It's surreal.
Bro, it's the worst.
It feels like a dream.
Yeah. 100%.
And then it starts to settle down.
I'm sure you're like me where no one expected you to go to prison. No one expected you to get arrested. No one expected you to be that guy. And then, well, I'm that guy.
Oh, Kevin's an athlete. He does well in school. Yeah. Like he has these internships lined up.
Bro. 100%.
He's got big dreams. He's not going to do that. He's not a drug addict. What are you talking about?
100%, bro.
So it was the general manager, that lady of the school bookstore, and she looks at me and she goes, this is where all of our books have been going for the past 3 years. And she's like, how many jobs have been lost at our school bookstore because we haven't made any money in, 2.5, 3 years. And
that sucks, man.
How long have you been doing this for? Now, I was a nervous wreck. I'm like, and I start talking immediately. I'm like, no, I've never done this before. I've never done this. This is my first time, blah, 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 blah. And I'm talking. And I'm like, wait a minute. I shouldn't be fucking saying anything because these cops probably have body cams on. Everything's probably being recorded.
All that, yeah.
So I just shut the fuck up. The cops handcuff me, bring me down to the precinct, the whole 9. Fingerprints, pictures, mugshot.
But above a certain amount, what was it considered? Grand theft or larceny? What was it?
So it was grand theft.
Grand theft.
Yeah, it wasn't larceny.
Was it? What is it like? What's the dollar amount for it to stay like a state case in a federal? Do you know?
It was $10,000, I believe.
Okay,
but I was under.
All right.
Yeah. Grand is what? $5,000?
I think so. I know the dollar amount isn't too crazy for it to be a federal case, but yeah.
Well, we'll get. So I go, I get booked, and I'm handcuffed to the ring in the precinct.
Right.
And it's 11:40 a.m. At 12 o'clock, I had a phone call for an internship. And it was a family friend who helped coordinate it. And it was the final round. It was like a follow-up with human resources. And he said, Kevin, at 12 o'clock on Friday, they're going to call you. Make sure you just answer the phone. They just want to make sure you have a pulse. Like you got the internship essentially. You have to just make sure you answer that phone.
Right.
It's fucking 11:40 a.m. And story of my life, So now the manipulation with the cop, I'm like, sir, listen, I know I fucked up, but I have this call at 12 o'clock. It's an interview for an internship I'm supposed to be doing this summer. Do you think I could just take the phone call? Can I just get my phone out of, wherever they check it into?
Right.
And he was like, he bought it. He's like, listen, I know you're a student athlete. I know you've never been in trouble before. You're not a bad kid. He's like, I'm going to let you do this phone call. I'm going to handcuff one hand to the ring. I'll give you another one so you can take the call. You're doing it right there from that seat. And he's like, and don't make me fucking regret my decision. Okay. 12 o'clock, sure enough, this lady calls. She goes, "Hi, Kevin Lanning, how are you?" I was like, "Oh, I'm great." She's like, "So, what do you like to do for fun?" I'm like, I play sports and I like to I'm making shit up. I like to paint. I like to community service. And there are people that have just been arrested being fucking brought behind me in a precinct. And, and I'm fucking sitting there trying to get the internship with this lady on the phone with Human Resources.
It's hilarious.
So I end up getting the internship.
That's good.
So the whole thing, I get bail paid, I get out immediately.
Thank that cop, because that's not common.
No,
at all.
Not at all. They would have.
Yeah. If it was in Miami, he would have been like, no.
Yeah, absolutely not.
Yeah.
I played sports, and their football team is really the only thing that they have. That and lacrosse is really the only thing they have going on in Albany. So now it's probably 2 weeks later, 2 weeks later, I get a letter from the university. You have been removed from school. You are not allowed. You've been terminated. You're not allowed to return, and you need to leave.
It's terrible.
Within the next 30 days. I'm like, fuck. You don't go to classes anymore. Blah, blah, blah.
Of course.
So a week after that, I get an attorney, and I had to appear in front of the judge. I want to say 45 to 60 days after my arrest. It's 2 or 3 weeks after my arrest. I go to the attorney with the paper, with my termination, walking him through the story. He looks it over and he's like, "Wait a minute. Have you been to court yet? Have you been represented by anyone else?" I said, "No, you're my attorney, I haven't even been in court yet." He's like, "Well, you're innocent until proven guilty." He's like, "They terminated you from the university based off of allegations. You can't do that." He goes, "It's common with like let's say you're playing for the New York Knicks and there are allegations against you. They have it in their contract. If there are allegations against you, they can terminate you." He goes, that doesn't happen with college and universities. He's like, it's different. So he's like, "I need to look over your enrollment agreement and let me figure it out from here." He's like, "But if they did fuck up, do you want me to try and call the dean and see if they can reinstate me and drop charges?" So that happens. They fucked up. He calls the dean. They end up dropping all the charges against me.
Well,
that's why I didn't know about the threshold, because I didn't even have to go in front of a judge, and I wasn't, I didn't go through the whole process. So it's 45, 60 days later, I go in front of the judge, and he's looking over he's like, "Kevin Lanning, blah, blah, blah." And he's like, "I see what happened here." He's like, "You need to leave my court with some kind of repercussions." He's like, "I see what happened here." So he gave me an ACOD for 6 months, stay out of trouble for 6 months. And he gave me I want to say about 100 hours worth of community service. I go
just to say he gave you something,
Yeah, exactly. It was a slap on the wrist compared to the charges I was facing.
Of course.
Although they never took the 10 bucks, the first 10 bucks out of my car. They only charged me for those 10 bucks. But they were a premium, whatever the school was charging for them.
And that's what they,
Then I go probably 3 weeks after that to go do my community service. And I go to a church, and the pastor's in the church. I go in the back, and he's shooting around, and they had a basketball hoop in the back. I'm talking to this dude. He sucks. He's fucking bricking every shot. And I start gassing him up. I'm like, "Hey man," I'm like, you're pretty fucking good, man. I'm like, "You got some shot." He was like 40 and I was 20.
That's funny.
In prime shape. And he was like, "Yeah, I play all the time, blah, blah, blah." He's like, I was like, "I'll make you a deal. I have 100 hours of community service. I'll play you to 11 right now. If I beat you, you got to sign off on all 100 hours. If I don't beat you, I'll do 200 hours for community service."
There you go.
He was like, "Deal." Absolutely. He was competitive. I could feel it. I fucking smoked him.
You already scoped him. You're like, "Oh, this guy's a loser."
He's terrible. Smoked him 11-0. Done. Game over.
Boom.
Signed off on my fucking hours, and I walked right out of there.
That's awesome.
And I'm sharing that because, dude, this was the manipulation. I was constantly dodging bullets.
It's crazy.
Constantly. All the time. And I was always able to get around situations. And I truly thought that I was untouchable.
Right.
My ego was through the roof.
It's crazy.
And look, I get excited when I tell those stories because they're insane.
They're
dude.
crazy. Yeah,
Some of the shit I was doing on drugs was insanity. And there was ego at the time, but I'm sharing these stories because don't think you're fucking untouchable.
100%.
Because you're not.
You're not. And life will prove it to you very quickly. It's funny that you say that story. I remember now, back in the 80s, Miami was like the cocaine capital of the world. So every uncle, every Cuban kid had that uncle or their dad or their cousin that was,
connected.
Yeah, they lived in this big house and they had 3 cars and they were like, oh, what do you do for a living? Oh, I'm a musician,
Yeah.
It's a going joke because we call them marimberos. And the marimba's like the little, it's kind of like a xylophone, but a little different. So that was the running joke. You'd go to his house and he'd be like, oh, yo, what do you do? I play the marimba. So how it connects to what you're saying is it was religious. Like whenever they needed, they would get booked and they would get lucky and get like community service or some shit they got caught with. It was religious. They see the parole officer, the community service guy walk up to him, hand him a yellow envelope.
Signed off.
And it's classic too. The Cuban guy walking up, hands it, signs, gone. Like it's
pays him off and he's done. Yeah.
That was so common in the 80s, bro. Oh my God. Anyway.
That's wild.
Yeah.
So I graduate college somehow. I have no idea. And in 4 years, I go
So
home.
how many years passed between the case and all that community and then when you graduated?
About a year.
So
year and a half.
You were like a junior in college when all that happened?
When I got arrested, yeah.
So you found the racket when you were a freshman? And you ran it all the way until you were a junior?
Until I was 2.5 years.
Holy shit.
Yeah, I started in spring semester freshman year, and then I got caught.
Dude.
2.5 years later, I was a junior.
That's crazy. It lasted that long, huh?
Yeah, it did. It lasted. I was shocked that they didn't fucking catch me way before. And then I'm also overthinking it. I'm like, the fucking manager got caught, and he dropped a dime on me, and they set me up and all this shit. But like, you
just got greedy as hell, and it got to the point where it was egregious, and they were just like, what the hell's going on? And they put 2 and 2 together, and they were like, oh shit, this guy's stealing from us.
Yeah, then they started to clamp down on their inventory and really see what the fuck was going on.
Well, you did them a favor because I'm sure they have the most secure bookstore in all of American University now.
Yeah, but it's crazy. Some of the shit you do, you don't realize the impact. Like there were probably hardworking moms, single moms that were working in that bookstore.
Got laid off. Yeah.
Got laid off, and that was the impact. And I'm not saying this to brag or boast, but like I still to this day make amends to the school on a monthly basis.
That's important
for what had happened because a spoiler alert, later on in my life I get sober and I'm coming up on 7 years of sobriety, clean and sober. That's awesome. Mood or mind altering substances. I never took accountability. I got clean and sober 7 years ago, and like the first 3 years I was just staying abstinent from drugs and alcohol. And I wasn't taking accountability. And through the amends process, through helping other people, is there someone, if I go to a meeting, a self-help meeting, is there someone in there with a day or 2 days or 3 days who's struggling?
Right.
How can I help them?
Exactly.
And that's when my life started to change.
Alrighty, guys, taking a quick break from the podcast to bring you a word from our sponsor, Christian J. DePaz. Appreciate him for coming through. He offers a phenomenal service. Guys, I'm a big promoter of entrepreneurship, owning a company, starting a business, doing your own thing, and chasing your own dreams. But as the old saying goes, it takes money to make money. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about Christian J. DePaz and what he does. He gets funding for new and startup businesses. Christian, tell us a little bit about it.
Thank you so much, bro, for the opportunity to come inside your podcast and help more entrepreneurs start their own business or scale their current businesses. So what we do here at Secure Funding is that we'll help you acquire anywhere between $50,000 to $150,000 at 0% interest rate business credit, so that you can once again start or scale your current business. So if you come here from our good friend Nelson, there's no that you're coming from the Montana Method podcast, and we'll take extra good care of you. With that being said, brother, thank you so much for bringing us on.
Of course. What are you waiting for, guys? Click the link in the bio. When you focus on other people, man, I went to this thing called Unleash the Power Within with Tony Robbins, and one time he said something that was pretty, like, you know those moments where you're just like, what? Wait, say that again. He says, suffering, you only suffer when you make it about you. When you make it about other people, the suffering is gone immediately. And let me tell you, bro, every time in my life I've gone into that dark space where I think my life just sucks and it's over and all these things are happening to me, I immediately just like pick myself up and like just look for somebody to help. And it works. I call my mother, or I call my sister, or I hit up a friend of mine, see if they need help with something. Like immediately the suffering is gone. Yeah. Immediately. Yeah. It's crazy. It's almost like, you ever heard of something called the survival context? You know what that is? No, I don't. So the survival context is a mechanism your ego uses to stay alive and relevant in your mind. The reason it's called the survival context is because it's what it uses to survive. But the thing is, the ego tricks you into thinking that you and the ego are one, and you're not. Your ego is not you. So what are the survival context? What are these mechanisms? The first one and the most relevant one is the need to be right. When you see people get in these really stupid arguments and like they're just, no, it's not that need to be right, that's your ego. Ultimately, if you stop and think about it for a second, who gives a shit? If I am right, why do I need to prove it to anybody? Yeah. Who cares? Yep. Second is safety. The need to be safe is a huge one. Like not taking risk, staying within this little niche, this little safe space. That's all ego. Because you don't, and it kind of ties into you don't want to be wrong. Yep. So if I take a risk and I fail, I was wrong. Yeah. And then it's embarrassing and all this stuff we make up in our head, right? Third is the need to look good. Oh my God, that one in Miami is huge. The need to look good is ridiculous. It's ridiculous here. It really is. And that's all ego. Because who are you trying to look good in front of? People that more than likely you're not going to see more than once in life. A bunch of people on social media that you're never going to meet, potentially. You know what I mean? So yeah, it ties into what you were talking about. And so I wish I could invite you to the event where I learned there, but they're not in business anymore, unfortunately. Yeah. COVID wiped them out. But yeah, it's good. It's good stuff. It's funny you say that because correlated to fighters, like UFC fighters. I'm a huge fan of fighters. Yeah, I love it. So I saw this TikTok the other day. Like how you can identify a fighter, out like in a bar or something like cauliflower ear or whatever. But It's funny because when you are a trained fighter, you don't want to fight. I've seen it. I've been out with trained fighters. I've 100%. Been out with professional trained fighters where someone's trying to test them or test someone else. And it's the guy who's flexing. It's the guy who's loud, who is trying to prove something. And the trained fighter's just like, dude, they don't need to train it. You don't want to do this. They don't need to prove anything. Israel Adesanya was on Joe Rogan and he was talking about a guy came up to him and tried to test him on the street. What an idiot. Like, are you out of your fucking mind? This guy kills people for a living. He would destroy you. It would be bad, and he'd be justified in doing so if you're testing him. And he said, he was saying on the podcast, I don't want to do that because I know fighting. I understand the severity of this guy. I hit him and he falls and hits his head the wrong way. And then it's not good. And then it's not good, which is a perfect segue into my next story. Hold that thought. Yeah. I'm going to check the camera. Next story. Go for it. Yeah. So I'm in college. This was actually before the book incident. I was in the grips of my addiction. Okay. Drinking, partying every weekend. I went home for Thanksgiving break down to Long Island, and I was at a bar seeing all my friends that I hadn't seen in a while for the semester. And we're all chilling. My one buddy's there with his girlfriend. Him and his girlfriend get into an argument. He storms out. So me and my
one other friend are like, fuck, like we got to go after him and just make sure he's okay. So we start walking with him away from the bar, trying to talk to him to come back. Like, look, dude, chill out. Let's hang out here for 10 minutes and then we'll go back, cool off a little bit. So as we're walking down the street, coming the other way on the opposite side of the street is this middle-aged guy. He's probably like 50 years old. And he starts crossing over to our side of the street. And we're not really paying much mind, but once he started crossing over, we're like, yo,
who's this guy?
What the fuck is this dude doing? And he's kind of stumbling a little bit. So he walks up to us. He goes, hey, guys. He's like, do you think you could get me some blow? And we're like, dude, nah, man. Like, I was like, my boy is like really going through it right now. Sorry, bro. And he's like, no, come on. You guys can get me some blow. Come on.
Bro.
We're like, nah, dude. Like, sorry, we can't.
Right.
Just no.
Yeah.
And he kept going and going and asking and asking.
Bro.
And my buddy who had gotten into the fight with his girlfriend finally loses it on him. He's like, you want some blow? Guy's like, yeah. He's like, fucking blow on this. And the dude is like, are you fucking kidding me? Blah, 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 blah. Like, have respect. And we're like, yo, you're asking us for blow and you want us to respect you? So he grabs my buddy who said that to him and they lock up. Now, my buddy's not a fighter. My friend is not a fighter at all. And like fight or flight, and he's flight 100% of the time. He's trying to
get off him,
shimmy away from him and get away from him. The guy's like on his shirt. I turn and I just crack this dude in the face. And it's wild. But it was wrong.
But it's those are situations where it's like there's high tension and people are like the emotions are running crazy. So he was holding your friend. Maybe you thought he was hurting him.
Yeah, he would look. He was 50. We were like 19, 20.
Yeah.
And all of us were athletes. We were in prime shape.
Right.
Like we could have just pushed him off on the ground and then just ran away. And we did. And I hit him. And when I hit him, you ever see someone get hit where they just lock up?
And they just tilt over.
They just fucking lifeless.
I was a boxer for a while, so I've seen a few of those.
Okay. There you go. So I cracked him right in the temple and he locked up and he just fell forward.
That shit is scary, bro. And he fell on the concrete? Oh my God.
He fell on the concrete and his face ate the curb. Oh my dude, it was bad. It was really bad. And we start running away. Like, fuck, we got to get out of here. We start running.
Right.
Cars are passing. Now, listen, I will say this. We stopped about a block away because we didn't want to get caught. That's the wrong reason to stop.
Well, at least you stopped.
Right. So we stopped. We turn around and the dude's still laying there, obviously. And it was just, we're like, bro, we got to fucking go back. And we go back. We like wrapped his head up in like a shirt or whatever. Called an ambulance. Called 911. They bring an ambulance.
Was he like bleeding?
Yeah, he was bleeding on the pavement. And he was out.
Like I'm guessing he cracked his face on the concrete and then.
It was weird because he was bleeding from his face, but he was bleeding from the back of his head too, which was very weird. I don't know if he fell and kind of hit.
So you hit him face first or you hit him in the back?
I hit him in the side of the face.
So maybe when he cracked his head on the sidewalk or something. I don't know.
So he's laying there. Police come. And I was like, guys, they're going to fucking separate us and they're going to ask us what happened. And, whatever.
This
Make
is
sure
happened.
we're all, on the same page. So of course they come, they separate us. I get handcuffed. They're like, okay, you hit him, you're handcuffed, and they put me in the back of the police car.
Right.
So they didn't take my, it was weird. They didn't take my phone away from me.
So you had it like in your pocket?
I was handcuffed in the back and I shimmied my phone out. I opened it. I swear to God, it was when it was thumbprint. Do you remember when the iPhones?
Of course, yeah.
No, actually, no. It was just code. It was just the code. Yes.
So you kind of like
pushed it in or whatever, and called my father. He comes down. I lived like 10 minutes away, and my dad's a fucking madman. He's like, he self-defense, and he started like talking to the cop or whatever about it. The cop ends up letting me out And he's like, all right, well, look, the stories are, it was self-defense. Like you're
good to go.
you were just detained.
Right.
And that made sense because my phone wasn't taken away. I was just detained in the back of the police car. So I leave. Thanksgiving happens in Long Island. I go back to school that Sunday. The following Wednesday, so almost a week after it happened, I get a phone call from my father. And he's like, hey, listen, he's like, a detective came to the house, said that this guy's in a coma and he's bleeding from his brain. And there's a good chance that he may not survive. And even though it was a self-defense scenario, you could still face, because he didn't put his hands on you directly, you could still face a manslaughter charge.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say, manslaughter. Yeah.
So, dude, my fucking world just like.
And this is before you get arrested for
This was before the book situation. So this wasn't like.
It wasn't even like, oh shit, I did this, I fucked up. It was more like a kind of weird situation. Yeah.
And when the book thing happened, it was like it happened again. It fucking happened again. So I'm saying the foxhole prayer, God, like, please just get me through this. If I get through this, I'll never drink, I'll never drug, I'll clean my life up. And so I end up going home. About a week after that, he ends up coming out of the coma. Thank God. But he was half blind in one eye. Yeah, it was a fucked up situation, man. It was a really fucked up situation. So then no charges are pressed. I don't get in trouble because there was drugs and alcohol in his system.
Right.
The story was the story. He came up to us as a group and he engaged in a physical altercation with the group and
looking for drugs and shit. Yeah.
No charges were pressed, and
everybody just went their way.
And I skated by once again. So these were the things that were fucking happening, and I kept dodging these bullets. So I'll speed it up a little bit. I end up going after school. I go move into New York City, and now I have health insurance. This is great. I got to find a fucking pain management clinic and go see a doctor and get oxys now on my healthcare.
Shit.
So I start doing that. Then that runs out. Then I'm doctor shopping. Then I'm getting caught doctor shopping. And then 2013, I went away to rehab for the first time. I went to a treatment facility. It was a really good treatment facility. I went there. It was in Pennsylvania. It was in the middle of fucking nowhere. And I was introduced to self-help programs. And I really didn't know what sobriety was. I couldn't fathom that one could have fun and be happy without a drink
drugs
or a drug. And it didn't make sense to me. There, I learned that it is possible. There were people in there, counselors, alumni that would come back and speak, that you could actually do it and change your life. Right. And these people, they were sharing their feelings with me. I could relate to the feelings. And then their war stories were way worse than I was. They got caught, right? And like, they did these things that, I said maybe were yets for me that I wasn't going to do. And they said, well, I said the same thing to myself. And here I was.
This time later. Yeah, man. No, we're good. Bro, it's crazy how many times, because I can think back on my life and think about I never had an addiction problem, thank God. But I can think about the same thing where I was in the wrong environment or I was around the wrong people, and these things would happen where it'd be so close. It'd be such a close call. But I'd just be like, that doesn't mean anything, whatever, bad luck, or I was at the wrong. Instead of recognizing my part in what happened, that's such a universal human thing. Like the refusal to accept responsibility and what you did in that situation. It's pretty wild. I don't know why it's so difficult for us to accept responsibility, because the second you accept responsibility, all of a sudden you have control over what happens in your life. But when you don't accept responsibility, it's like, oh no, that's happening because of other people. It's not my fault, right? So it's crazy. I've come to the conclusion that I think what happens is we don't want to accept responsibility, because if we accept responsibility, you have to accept the fact that your life is a product of your choices and actions. And you don't want to admit that, right? Because of the amount of shit that happens to us. It's like, oh, really? So it's my fault? All this shit is my fault? And that's a hard one, man. That's like, you know what I mean? That's crazy.
Well, it's embarrassing because if you're taking accountability of something you generally don't want to take accountability for, it's embarrassing. It's a bad outcome, right? So for me to take the acceptance and accountability of I shouldn't have fucking hit that guy that night. That's a terrible situation.
100%.
That's an embarrassing situation that I don't want to share with the public. And
100%.
when you do that, when you take accountability and you shine light onto something embarrassing and you own it, that's freedom. It's freedom,
Bro.
dude.
100%.
And the world would be a much better place if there was more accountability taken.
Oh my God, dude, seriously. You know, people don't realize that it's not being perfect and not making mistakes. It's accepting the fact that you made the mistake and making it right. You know?
Yep.
People love that. I've made a ton of mistakes in my life, and 9 times out of 10, when I go back and I try to make it right and I apologize, they're super happy. They're almost relieved. They're like, oh wow, man, I love that. You know, let's make this right. I forgive you. You know, because it's that need to be perfect that's so unrealistic. No, bro, we're gonna fuck up. We're gonna make mistakes. So with this need to hold on to like never making a mistake and never letting people down, it's gonna happen. It's inevitable.
Yeah.
It's a matter of being the right person and making things right when you do fuck up that make you a good person, not never making a mistake. You know? So
yeah, we're humans.
We're humans, man. Yeah. What's that old what's that to err is human but to forgive is divine?
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, it's anyway.
No, so
all right.
Yeah.
So where were we at?
I'm in rehab. It's 2013. I'm introduced to self-help programs. I graduate from rehab. Once I finish rehab, I go back to New York City and I transition back to life. And I stayed clean and sober for 3 years and 4 months, 3 years and 5 months ish.
It's good for your first run.
Yeah, it was good. I learned a lot, and I really got an understanding of what it was like to give back and be of service to other people, not be a scumbag, essentially.
100%.
And I also, one of the most important things was I was having fun in life without drugs and alcohol. And I couldn't
Never thought that was possible, right? Yeah.
Now, I am in the gym. Summer 2016, I'm in the gym. I'm working out. I'm bench pressing. My shoulder, I got to go back in for shoulder surgery. At this point, after 3 years of sobriety, I kind of hit a point where I was stagnant in my sobriety, and I wasn't making amends. I wasn't working a program that I should be.
Right.
But during that 3.5 years, I had gotten married. I, got my own place. Just life was fucking awesome. I had a really good job that I got. Life was good. My relationships with my families had improved drastically. I was asked to be a godfather of my nephew. People were counting on me. Trust was back. And I said, well, I have life by the balls. Like, I can't.
Right.
It'll stay like this. So same thing. I let my guard down. I am prescribed painkillers, and I start taking painkillers again after surgery. I tell the doctor I'm an addict. Now, I am not saying that to blame it on the doctor. No. This is my responsibility.
Right.
I wasn't working a very good program, and I was abstinent. I was not taking accountability. I wasn't doing the things that were taught to me that helped me get sober initially. And I was not spiritually fit going into that shoulder surgery. Therefore, I should have taken accountability with myself and been honest with myself and said, hey, I should push this surgery off. Right. I know it hurts, but let's figure this out because I'm not ready to do this. I should have been honest with myself. It's not the doctor's fault at all. It's a big surgery. So I fall right back into it. Now I went out for 1 year, and the insanity in one fucking year, it was out of my wife is just, yeah, go ahead.
What was the biggest difference you would say between being on drugs before the first time you got sober and then relapsing? What was a major difference you would say?
The depression was 10 times worse because I knew that the meetings I was going to were still happening on Tuesday night. And the people that were there when I was there during my 3.5 years of sobriety were still there. Where am I? I'm up in the Bronx. I'm up in the fucking Bronx meeting up with,
with Julio.
Yeah. Fucking doing the wrong thing, lying to my wife.
Yeah.
So one day my wife went away and I had one day where I couldn't get pills while she was away. Call my dealer. He's like, dude, I'm not even in town, blah, blah, blah. He's like, but I got a guy that I know up in the Bronx. He's like, I'll give you his number. Let me hit him up, make sure it's cool, but be careful with him. Like, he's a friend of mine, but he's in the street,
Right.
This guy was a little more civilized, the guy that I usually went to.
Yeah.
So I hit this dude up and I was like, you got Roxy's? He's like, yeah, Roxy Blues. He's like, yeah, whatever. I was like, all right, let me get like 20 or 30 of them. I don't remember how many I bought. So I shoot up to the Bronx. I take, the FDR up. Meet this dude. I pull up to the block. The block they're all drug dealers. I'm the only fucking white dude. Like, they're all looking at me. Like,
bunch of Puerto Rican dudes. So unfortunately, the camera died the last 5 minutes of this podcast. So that really cool story at the end, we missed out on. I only have it in audio form. So unfortunately, we can't see what happened towards the end of that video. I already spoke to Kevin about it. I'm going to have him on for a part 2 soon. So we'll be able to finish that story. For now, that's the end of this podcast episode, guys. Thank you for tuning in. See you on the next one.
I've been out here hustling all my life. Every day we get into it. Really out here in these streets. That's day and night. Like there's nothing to it. When I was going through it, dog, I never got your call. I never asked for nothing, no. But now I want it all. I promise I'ma do it. Came from rags to riches. Rags to riches. Came from rags to riches. Rags to riches. Came from rags.